I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I've been with my wife, Emily, for about 5 years now. We met when I was in college, and she was the girl everyone wanted to be with, smart, hot, confident, and a little bitchy, but in a way that I found kind of charming at first. Things were pretty good in the beginning. We had our arguments, but overall, I thought we had a solid future. Lately, though, I started noticing little things. Her phone always on silent, her being a little more distant, not laughing at my jokes as much, staying out later than usual. I chalked it up to wedding stress. Yeah, we were supposed to get married next month, and to be honest, I was nervous, but I figured everything was normal. I mean, who wouldn't be stressed? Still, I felt like something was off but couldn't quite put my finger on it. Then came the signs I couldn't ignore. She started changing her routines. She'd leave in the mornings claiming she was at work but suddenly come home late, smelling different, like perfume I didn't recognize, not my wife's vanilla or whatever she used. She'd be secretive with her phone, hiding it when I walked into the room, even deleting messages. I brushed it off, thinking I was paranoid, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. One night, I decided to check her phone. I didn't want to be that guy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something big. I grabbed her unlocked phone from the charger, hoping to see nothing, but when I scrolled through her messages, I hit the jackpot. There were texts, pictures, everything. She was seeing someone else. Not just some guy she'd flirt with, but someone she was having sex with. It was then I saw the name, Mark. Mark was my best man, my best friend since childhood. I always trusted him, always thought he was a good guy. Turns out he'd been lying to me the whole time, too. They'd been sneaking around for weeks, planning this affair right under my nose. The texts were explicit, full of promises, and the photos, they weren't just talking. They were fucking. I felt my stomach drop. My world was crashing down around me. I didn't even sleep that night. I sat there in the dark, holding her phone, trying to process what I'd just seen. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this right before our wedding? And Mark, my own best man, lying to my face all this time. I felt like I didn't exist for a second, just a fool in their game. The betrayal cut so deep that I didn't know how to breathe, how to even look at her the same way after that. I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't just pretend this wasn't happening. But I also knew that whatever she'd say, it wasn't going to make this okay. She's always been good at lying, good at pretending she's innocent, but this was next level. I waited until she was asleep, then grabbed her phone again and took screenshots of everything. I told myself I needed proof, just in case she tried to deny it. That night I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling more betrayed than I ever thought possible. When morning came, I woke her up, my hands trembling. I told her I knew what she'd been doing, showed her the screenshots. Her face twisted into something ugly. She tried to deny everything at first, saying I was crazy, that I was paranoid, that I was overthinking. But I knew the truth. Mark was her lover, and she'd been lying to me, cheating on me, planning to marry me while sneaking around with my best friend. She didn't deny it for long. She got angry, started calling me names, saying I was accusing her unfairly. But I wasn't stupid. I saw everything clear as day. That was the moment I realized my entire relationship was a lie. I felt so angry, so hurt. I'd given her everything, my love, my trust, and she'd thrown it all away for some guy who was supposed to be my friend. I didn't cry, not then. I just sat there feeling numb, thinking about all the moments I was blind, all the times she lied to me, all the times I overlooked her little signs. I knew I had to decide what to do next, but right then, all I could think about was the betrayal. How I was going to get revenge, how I was going to make her hurt as much as she'd hurt me. After that first explosive morning, everything changed. I was in a daze, walking around like I was outside of my own body. The house felt empty, cold, like I'd been erased from my own life. Emily was still acting normal, as if nothing had happened, but I couldn't look at her the same way. My mind kept replaying the images, her texts with Mark, the way she lied so effortlessly, like I was stupid. That bitchy grin she always had, that sneer when she thought she was getting away with something, it all suddenly seemed so sickening. I decided I couldn't stay in the same space with her. I needed to get away, clear my head, figure out what the hell to do next. I packed a bag and left for a hotel that night. Being alone in that room, I finally let myself feel everything: the anger, the heartbreak, the humiliation. How could she do this to me? How could Mark, my best friend, do this? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut every time I thought about it. All those years, all the plans we made, and it was all a lie. She was a bitch, a liar, a cheat, and Mark, he was just a snake. The worst part was realizing I never really knew either of them. Emily always put on this fake persona, so confident, so perfect, as if she was untouchable. But behind that veneer, she was just a manipulative, selfish woman who loved the thrill of betrayal. Mark, he was my best man, my brother-in-arms, and he'd been sneaking around with my wife. That thought haunted me. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? How did I not see it? Was I that blind? I spent that night drinking alone, thinking about everything. I kept replaying the moment I found the messages, how my stomach dropped, how my chest hurt. I'd always been a forgiving guy, but this was beyond anything I'd ever experienced. I couldn't believe how easily they lied. Emily, with her bitchy smirk, trying to twist everything, telling me I was overreacting, that I was crazy. Mark, acting innocent as if he'd done nothing wrong. The whole thing felt like a sick joke, and I was the punchline. The next day was worse. I went back to the house, determined to get some answers. I needed her to admit it, to say something, anything. She was sitting on the couch, sipping her coffee like she hadn't just thrown my entire world into chaos. I confronted her again, asked her outright if she'd been cheating. She looked me dead in the eyes, that bitchy smirk back on her face, and lied again. "You're imagining things, Jake. You're overthinking. Mark and I are just friends. We're just having a little fun, that's all. It's not a big deal." I couldn't believe how she lied so easily. It made me furious. I told her I had proof, that I knew everything, that I'd seen the texts, the photos, everything. Her eyes flickered for a second, like she was trying to come up with some new bullshit. She called me paranoid, accused me of snooping, said I was insecure. I felt like I was losing my mind. The woman I loved, the woman I was supposed to marry, was a manipulative, lying bitch. My best friend was just as bad, a snake who'd betrayed me, who'd been lying about everything for weeks. At that moment, I realized I had to do something drastic. I couldn't just walk away and pretend this wasn't a huge betrayal. I needed to make them pay, to make Emily see what she lost. I told her I was done with the lies, done with her, done with Mark. I told her I was going to expose her, tell everyone what she'd done, and take back what was mine. I felt so cold and angry, but inside I was also crushed. I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Now I wasn't sure I'd ever trust anyone again. I started making plans. I knew I couldn't just leave her or let her leave with everything. I had to fight back. I reached out to some of her friends, got hold of her bank accounts, and started to take control of our financial situation. I knew she was planning something. I could tell she was trying to cover her tracks, trying to hide whatever she and Mark had been doing with our savings. That's when I realized she'd been lying about everything, even the money. She was planning to run away with it all, probably to some other city, maybe start fresh without me. That's when I knew I had to act fast. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without a fight. I started gathering evidence, screenshots, bank statements, everything I could find. I didn't want to just confront her blindly. I wanted to hit her where it hurt. I wanted her to know I wasn't some cuckolded fool. I was going to make her regret everything she'd done. I also reached out to my lawyer, started planning how I'd protect what was left of my life. If she thought she could just disappear with our savings and all her lies, she was dead wrong. Meanwhile, she kept trying to spin her stories, saying she needed space, that she was stressed, that I was being unreasonable. But I wasn't buying any of it. When she finally saw I was serious, she snapped. Started screaming, calling me jealous, accusing me of being controlling. But I knew the truth. I'd seen the proof, and I wasn't going to let her gaslight me anymore. I was hurt, yeah, but also angry. So damn angry that I started planning my revenge in cold, calculated steps. Now I just wait, watching her, waiting for her next move. I know she's planning to run, to hide, but I'm ready. I'll make her pay for every lie, every betrayal, every tear, because I don't just want to walk away, I want her to suffer the consequences of her actions. And Mark, I'm coming for him too. This isn't over, not by a long shot. The days that followed were like living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every moment I wasn't working on my legal and financial plans, I was stuck in this haze of heartbreak and fury. I couldn't believe how deep her lies ran. Emily kept texting me, trying to play the innocent victim, crying about how I was destroying our relationship because I didn't trust her. She insisted she was just stressed and that I was overreacting like she was some misunderstood angel. Yeah, right. That bitch had been lying through her teeth the whole time. I remember the moment I started to piece everything together. I found out she'd been draining our savings account slowly over the last few months, small amounts at first, then bigger sums. I had no idea she was planning to disappear with everything. She was trying to cover her tracks, switching money around, trying to hide what she'd taken. I stayed up nights poring over bank statements and looking at transfers. I finally realized she was planning her escape. She was scheming to leave with the money, probably with Mark, probably to start some new life while I was left holding the bag. That's when I decided I had to act fast. I contacted my lawyer, and we started the process of freezing our accounts and locking down the money before she could run with it. I also hired a private investigator. Screw the police. I needed to know exactly where she was headed, and who she was with. The last thing I wanted was her getting away with everything, especially with Mark helping her cover it all up. Meanwhile, Emily kept up the act that she was the victim. She'd cry on the phone, saying she was sorry but needed space, and that I was accusing her of things she didn't do. She even accused me of being controlling, saying I was ruining her life. That pissed me off more than anything. She was the one sneaking around, lying, cheating, stealing our money, and now she's trying to gaslight me into thinking I'm the bad guy. Not happening. I knew her game. I saw through it. She thought she could just manipulate her way out of this mess, but I wasn't going to let her. One night I confronted her directly. I told her I knew about her plan to run, about the money she was trying to hide, and about her affair with Mark. Her face went pale for a second, then she snapped. Started yelling, saying she was done, that she'd left everything behind, and that I was just too stupid to see how much she was suffering. She told me I was a controlling asshole and that she was better off without me. That's when I realized she wasn't just a liar. She was a master manipulator, and she thrived on chaos. I also learned that Mark had been lying to everyone, not just me. Turns out, he'd been telling his own friends that he was just helping Emily through a rough patch, but behind the scenes they were fucking and planning to run away together. When I uncovered this, I felt a mix of disgust and betrayal. My best friend, my bride all these years, gone just like that. It was like I'd been played for a fool, and I was furious at myself for not seeing it sooner. So I put all the pieces together: her plan, her lies, her attempt to steal our savings, her affair with Mark. I realized I had to stop her before she disappeared completely. I contacted the bank and put a hold on the accounts, froze her access, and started the process of legal separation. I also told my lawyer I wanted her officially out of my life, and I started gathering more evidence to expose her to friends and family. Honestly, I didn't sleep much after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smirk, her lies, Mark's face in my mind. It all felt like a betrayal on every level. I couldn't trust anyone anymore, not even myself. I was angry, hurt, and feeling more lost than ever. But at the same time, I was determined. I wasn't going to let her or Mark get away with this. They thought they could just scam and cheat their way out of everything, but I was coming for them, and I was going to make damn sure they paid. The thing that stung the most was knowing how easily Emily lied. To my face, how she played the victim while she was the real villain. She always had a way of twisting things, making herself look innocent, but I saw through her now. She was a bitch who loved to manipulate just like Mark. And I realized something else. This was a wake-up call for me. No more trusting blindly. No more turning a blind eye. I had to protect myself from people like her. From people who would stab me in the back and smile about it. Now I'm just waiting to see if she actually tries to run with the money. I know she's planning something, but I've got eyes everywhere. I've been watching her social media, tracking her phone, and I'm prepared for her next move. Because this isn't just about the money or the lying. It's about finally taking control of my life again after being totally blindsided. And I swear, when I catch her, she's going to regret ever crossing me. The days turned into a blur of paranoia and planning. Emily's disappearance was about to hit a new level, and I knew it. She'd been trying to act like everything was fine, pretending she was moving on. But I saw through her. She was panicking, trying to cover her tracks, and I had the evidence to prove it. I've been watching her every move, tracking her phone, checking her social media, waiting for her to slip up. It felt like being in some game where I was trying to catch the perfect moment to strike back. One afternoon, I got a break. I tracked her to a motel on the outskirts of town. She booked a room under a fake name. I had my lawyer on the line, and we quickly coordinated a plan. I wasn't going to confront her alone. I knew better than that. I called the police, explained the situation, and they sent a couple of officers to serve her with a court order to freeze any further withdrawals from our accounts. I had already prepared the paperwork for full separation, and I was ready to go to court if needed. When they knocked on her door, she was caught off guard. She tried to deny everything, of course, claiming she was just taking a little trip to clear her head. But the evidence was stacked against her. Her phone had GPS data showing she'd been at the motel, and her bank accounts confirmed she'd been trying to withdraw the last of our savings. Seeing her face, pale, sweating, and furious, made me feel a strange sense of victory. She thought she could run, but I was already several steps ahead. She started crying, screaming about how I was ruining her life, how she deserved a second chance, and how I was just jealous. I didn't want to hear her lies anymore. I told her I had everything. She was done, finished, and I was done playing her game. I handed her the court order, looked her straight in the eyes, and told her she was done with my life. That I was going to expose her lies, take her to court, and fight for everything she tried to steal, because she'd crossed a line and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Meanwhile, Mark was still nowhere to be found. I knew he was probably hiding out somewhere, trying to figure out his next move, but I wasn't worried. I had all the proof I needed now. I was more determined than ever to make sure he paid for what he'd done. He wasn't just a liar, he was a traitor, and I'd never forgive him. I was also sick of her bitchy attitude, her fake tears, her manipulative games. She thought she could walk away from this, but I was going to make sure she learned a lesson she wouldn't forget. That night, I sat alone in the hotel room, exhausted but relieved. I finally had her cornered, and I was ready to take the fight straight to her. I called my lawyer again and asked about the next steps, filing the divorce, seizing the remaining assets, and making sure she couldn't run away with what's mine. I felt a strange mix of anger and relief. I still couldn't believe she'd done all this, that my wife, the woman I loved, was capable of such deception. But I also knew I was finally taking control of my life again. That realization, that I was finally getting some justice, felt like a huge weight lifting. In all of this chaos, I've come to see her for who she really is. A bitchy, manipulative liar who loved to play the victim until she got caught. She was never the girl I thought she was, just a selfish woman who wanted everything her way, even if it meant ruining my life. And Mark, just another snake, a traitor who used me and my trust to get what he wanted. I can't even begin to process how deeply I've been hurt, but I know one thing for sure. I'm done trusting anyone blindly from now on. I've started thinking about what comes next. I'll probably file for divorce soon, get back some of the money she tried to run off with, and rebuild from this mess. It's going to be a long road, but I'm not giving her the satisfaction of thinking she won. I've learned a lot about trust, about betrayal, and about how some people will destroy everything just to get what they want. The funny part, I'm actually feeling a little stronger, a bit more alive than I have in months. That bitch may have taken my peace, but she's also made me realize I can survive this. And I will. Now I just have to wait for the court to finalize everything, and she'll be out of my life for good. Then I'll start healing. The pain is still fresh, but I know I'll get through it. And someday I'll look back at this mess and know I survived something brutal, something I never thought I'd have to face. But I did, and I'll be okay. The court date finally arrived, and I felt like I was walking into the lion's den. Every step I took toward that courtroom, I was carrying the weight of betrayal and anger. Emily's face was a mask of bitchy defiance, like she thought she could still manipulate her way out of this. Mark was nowhere to be seen, probably hiding, probably panicked, but honestly I didn't care anymore. I had all the evidence I needed and I was ready to fight for what was mine. The judge listened to the case, reviewing the evidence I presented: bank statements, GPS data, screenshots of her texts, and the court orders I'd filed. Emily tried her usual tricks, crying and claiming she was the victim, that I was paranoid and controlling. But I had her dead to rights. When I finally got my turn, I laid out everything: how she'd been cheating, scheming, stealing our savings, and planning to disappear with Mark. I could feel the room tighten with tension, and I saw her melt a little under the weight of the truth. The judge didn't hold back. She granted the divorce, froze all remaining assets, and ordered Emily to pay back what she'd stolen. It felt like a victory, but honestly, I knew this was just the beginning. Emily was livid. She screamed, called me every name in the book, and said I was ruining her life, that I was a jealous fool who didn't understand her. But I wasn't listening anymore. I knew who she was: a manipulative, bitchy liar who thought she was untouchable. Now she was about to face consequences. Mark's name never even came up in court because I had already located him. Turns out, he'd been running out of town, trying to avoid me and the law, but I wasn't going to let that happen. I hired a private investigator again, and within days I had his address. I wasn't going to confront him directly, at least not yet. I wanted to make sure I had everything, every piece of proof, so I could destroy him just as thoroughly as Emily. That night I sat alone in my apartment, exhausted but finally feeling a sense of closure. I'd lost a lot: my wife, my best friend, my trust, but I'd gained clarity. I realized I'd been blind for a long time, trusting people who didn't deserve it. That betrayal cut so deep, I thought I'd never be able to look at anyone the same way again. But now I was starting to see clearly. I knew I'd be okay, even if it hurt right now. I started making plans: how to rebuild, how to move on. I reached out to a counselor because I knew I needed help processing everything. I also started focusing on my career, my friends, things that actually matter. I knew Emily's lies had been a big part of my life, but I wasn't going to let her control me anymore. I was done being the victim. It was time to take back my power. The hardest part was accepting that she disappeared with our savings, and probably Mark too. I'd fought so hard to protect what was left, but I knew I had to let it go. She always was a bitch about money, demanding, entitled, and I guess she thought she could just run off with it. Well, she was wrong. I had a lawyer working on recovering what I could, and I was prepared to do whatever it took. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Looking back now, I realize I learned some tough lessons. Trust is earned, not given blindly. People can surprise you in the worst ways, and betrayal is a pain like no other. But I also learned that I have a strength I didn't know I had. I survived this mess, and I will come out even stronger. Maybe I'll never fully forget what happened, but I will move on. Because life's too short to waste on people who don't value you. So here I am, at the edge of a new chapter. The betrayal still stings, but I'm ready to let go of the past. Emily's out of my life, Mark's out of my life, and I'm finally reclaiming my peace. I don't know what's next, honestly. Maybe I'll be alone for a while. Maybe I'll find someone who actually deserves my trust. But one thing, for sure, this experience has made me realize how important it is to be cautious, to protect myself, and to never let anyone take more than they give. And to anyone out there going through something similar, just know you're stronger than you think. Don't let betrayal define you. Use it as a lesson, get up and keep moving forward. Because the world's full of good people, and someday you'll find your way back to happiness. After everything that happened, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on what this whole nightmare has taught me. The betrayal, the lies, the emotional roller coaster, it's changed me forever. I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided so badly, but I guess life has a way of knocking you down just when you're feeling strongest. The thing is, I refuse to let this define me. I refuse to let Emily and Mark win this battle by taking my peace or my sense of trust. I've realized that people can be incredibly manipulative and selfish, and I've learned to be cautious about who I let into my life. I used to believe in the fairy tale idea that love and trust should be unconditional, but now I see that boundaries are necessary. Not everyone deserves your openness or your faith. That's a hard lesson, but it's one I had to learn the hard way. Moving forward, I know I need to be more guarded, more aware, and most importantly, more willing to walk away when someone shows their true colors. I've also come to accept that sometimes you have to lose in order to win. Losing Emily was one of the most painful experiences I've ever gone through, but it also freed me. It freed me from the lies, the deception, the constant feeling of walking on eggshells. Now I'm rebuilding my life, slowly but surely. I'm reconnecting with friends I neglected, focusing on my career, and investing in myself again. And honestly, I feel a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. It's like I've been given a second chance, not just to heal, but to start over. One thing I will say is that this whole ordeal has made me appreciate real integrity and honesty a lot more. I've met some new people since all of this went down, people who are genuine, who treat others with respect, and who actually care. It's a reminder that there are still good souls out there, and I just have to be patient and give myself the time to find them. I've learned that the pain of betrayal can be overwhelming, but it's also a catalyst. For growth, you either let it destroy you or use it to strengthen you. Most importantly, I've come to understand that my happiness isn't dependent on someone else. I can be alone, I can be hurt, but I am still whole. I don't need a lie to define me. I don't need someone else's approval or validation to feel worth something. I've learned that I am enough, even if the people I trusted the most turned out to be unworthy of my trust. That's the real victory. Looking back, I see that betrayal was a brutal teacher, but a teacher nonetheless. It's shown me what I need to value: trust, honesty, respect, and what I should never tolerate again. I've become more resilient, more aware, and more determined to protect myself from people who just want to take advantage of me. And I'll be honest, I'm proud of how far I've come. It's not easy to pick up the pieces after losing everything you thought was real, but I did it. So to anyone who is still going through their own version of this, stay strong. Trust your instincts, protect your heart, and don't be afraid to walk away from the people who don't deserve you. Life will throw punches, but you can choose how to respond. And I promise better days are ahead. One day you'll look back and this pain will be just a chapter in your story, one that made you stronger, wiser, and more ready for whatever life throws next.